Welcome to my economics channel, where I not only love discussing the subject, but I like making it palatable, making it easy to understand, and most of all, of course, fun. And in today's video, I actually want to discuss a subject which is very often misunderstood, or at the very least, its role is minimized, or in some cases, it's way overblown. And that is the subject of money. And in particular, I want to ask the question, is money memory? Is money the equivalent to the perfect use of memory? So what do I mean by this? Before I get into that, I actually want to show the sources of which I draw upon. And so the first one is Money is Memory by Narayana R. Kochelakota. Hopefully I said that correctly. As you might have guessed, this paper is the inspiration for this topic. And there are two more papers which are actually counterexamples of this. And one of them is Money is More Than Memory by Maria Bigoni, Gabriele Camara, and Marco Casari. Once again, hopefully I said those names correctly. And the final paper is A Note on Money is Memory, a Counterexample by Yu Awaya and Hiroki Fukai. And once again, I have to apologize for the pronunciation of these names. But to get into the topic and to actually go off the first paper, Money is Memory, the idea is if we had perfect memory and we were perfectly willing to punish people who are free riders, we could actually substitute money for memory. So how this works is that we have a group of people living together, coexisting, and instead of using money, they simply use a shared memory, if you will, essentially a shared balance sheet, which then records debits and it records credits. So it records your overall balance with respect to the society. And so if you help someone, you receive payment in the form of a credit on this virtual ledger, and you make payments, specifically when someone helps you, by getting a debit. And the idea is if we had perfect memories and we could remember every single transaction, if we were like a hive-mind or something like that, then there would be no need for money. The other point is that we want to punish free riders. So if you have a zero balance or if you have a negative balance, the idea is that you then have to help someone. You have to provide some sort of value to this group of people, then you get paid and your balance is returned to zero or it's returned into positive territory. However, it's been shown, especially in the other papers, that free riders, they continue free riding, especially because just using memory, even if it's perfect memory, it's hard to punish people. We find it socially difficult to punish free riders even when we know who they are. Then of course, if we know there are free riders, however we don't know who they are, obviously we can't punish them. It can also be hard to punish free riders because we don't know what the cutoff is. It can be difficult to decide when to punish someone. If someone has a zero balance, but then they go out and purchase something, a favor from someone does something for them, and they go into negative territory, do we punish them immediately? Or do we then allow them a chance to work that back, to then return the favor? However, of course, this creates an easily slippery slope where they keep making excuses. They keep promising that they're going to return the favor, they're going to provide some sort of value. Then, of course, the behavior of them free riding continues. The point here with memory is that we have people which are altruistic and they provide value. However, that then allows other people to free ride, but it allows more people to free ride because they see there's no consequence to running a negative balance. And so this is the sense in which money is not simply memory. And so going into the other papers, what they point out is that money has this role whereby it allows more efficient transactions to take place, especially over time and especially within good institutions. However, one of the big things money does is it punishes free riders. So how does that work? Well, the thing with money is if you don't have it, you can't spend it. And there's no way to go into negative territory. The other thing is we don't have to decide when to punish free riders. Money essentially does that for us. It takes away that decision. We don't have to decide when or when not to provide a service, when to provide value to someone. If they can't pay, we don't provide the service to them. We don't rely on any excuses. We don't rely on any outside factors. Because if that person can't provide the money, well then that's it, they can't provide the money. They don't get any services. And in a system where money is used, those free riders, they are then incentivized to provide value. They're incentivized to go out and look for ways in which they can provide value to then get access to money and then to be able to spend that money. This is not to say that there are no free riders, but that the proportion is much reduced. And in fact, over time, the amount of free riders goes down and the amount of advantageous trades goes up. And so over time, we're more efficiently using our resources, people are helping each other, we're learning, we're growing, and of course, we're getting richer. However, there's actually a super interesting result in one of the papers, and it says, what we're seeing here is we have three different scenarios. We have the baseline scenario, where people could choose how and when they wanted to trade with one another, when trades were beneficial, when they weren't beneficial. They decided that on their own. Then we have the group of people which use money, and then we have the group of people which relied on memory. Or more specifically, there was no money, but in the study, they recorded previous transactions. What we can actually see here We have the frequency of cooperation against the number of games. In the first game, actually the baseline people and the people that were relying on memory, they actually cooperated with each other much more than people with money. It's only over time that we see, and it increases quite a lot actually, diverges between them, whereby having a system of money and having good institutions which utilize money, that actually increases cooperation and decreases the amount of free riders. And so you can see that with the baseline, that simply goes down. Memory tracks money for a little while and then it drops off. After a while, relying on memory simply isn't enough, and where it starts to drop off is when there's too many free riders. And then you're more likely to hold back your favors, you're not likely to do advantageous trades, and which is bad for everyone. It's bad for everyone in the aggregate. And so reading this chart, there's a sense in which money is not necessarily intrinsic to us. It's not something we're necessarily born with. Unless we're born into a society that already has money, then we can quickly pick it up. But going from these examples, once we introduce the concept of money, it actually doesn't do that much for us at the start. It's only over time, and especially as you become more familiar with money, it's easier to use it and it becomes self-reinforcing, and then the benefits become self-evident and there's more cooperation and there's more growth on the aggregate. And in this paper, this is actually reinforced, whereby they bring back all of the people that were involved in the money group and they bring them back for more rounds where once again they use money, and in fact cooperation goes up again. And it keeps increasing because these people are already familiar with the rules, but also they're familiar with the use of money in general. What this suggests is that introducing money can only work for the long term, and it requires strong and stable and of course trustworthy institutions. The point is you take a hit at the start with the introduction of money, but then over time people learn how to use it and it becomes self-advantageous, and then in the aggregate things can grow. We can get a bigger population, there's more things we can buy, there's more things we can do, and we can just become richer in general. Whereas an important feature of a system which uses money is that it punishes free riders and instead turns them into people who want to help. And in turn, with more people helping and with more ideas being brought into the group, there's more likely that you're going to get breakthroughs, more likely you're going to get growth, and just in general more ideas for how people can enjoy themselves so that you can lead richer lives. And the interesting result here is that it doesn't matter what form money takes, it's just that it has to be a thing that we all accept and we all use. And so there's been thousands of forms of money in the past, and more than likely there will continue to be forms of money into the future. And of course the latest iteration of that is Bitcoin. But the way that Bitcoin works is not different to the way all other pieces of money have worked in the past, and it's not going to change into the future. And so Bitcoin is not a revolution, it's simply an evolution of money. And so fiat money, the ones and zeros that exist just in our bank accounts, that might change into the future, we don't know. But the way in which it is used will not change. That is stable. And it's very likely that only small aspects of money will be changed in the future. And so what do I mean by this? Well, think about Bitcoin. Yes, you can buy things and sell things with Bitcoin, but people also buy Bitcoin and sell Bitcoin itself. It's speculative. And that is not necessarily what we want out of our money. We want money to be worthless in and of itself. And it's why gold fell out of use and out of favor as money. Because before, when we had gold, it was in fixed supply, and its supply could only be increased when we mined more gold. Well, the thing is, this created many monetary problems and very large fluctuations in terms of inflations and deflations, as you can see with the US here in this chart. Whereas when we introduce fiat money, and of course when we trust the authorities, that is then when we get a more stable monetary regime. And of course with targeting inflation at 2% per year, we grow the stock of money because the amount of things, the amount of goods and services, the amount of advantageous trades keeps growing. And that is why fiat money rules the roost, because we're not allowing gold to determine how and when trades should happen. We're giving that role over to fiat money, which yes can be printed, but it can also be controlled by, once again, an institution that we trust. And of course this is why central banks around the world are independent. And this is why money is more than just memory or simply a shared balance sheet. And so yes, in a system of money, we can borrow money, we can go into debt and promise to pay back later. However, this is contingent upon financial conditions in the economy and of course the state of money, and not simply what's happened in the past. The only way right now you can borrow money, let's say for a business, because a bank or whoever you're borrowing from has to have optimism in you that you'll be able to pull the business off. In a system where we're just using memory, it's a lot harder to make these allocations, and it's all too easy for free riders to take over and to ruin society for everyone else. And what I hope is that what I've shown in this video showcases why we have continual financial innovation. Whether good or bad, we will continually evolve the way we use money simply because we want more advantageous trades and we want a system where freeloaders are punished. There are always going to be advantageous trades which don't happen and which then is a loss in the aggregate for society, and there are always going to be freeloaders. The idea behind good financial innovation is that we increase the amount of advantageous trades and we punish freeloaders. And this can only happen in a system of money, and it can only happen over time in a system which is perpetuated, which is why we want good institutions to persist and thrive. We want them to continue into the future, and so that we can continue the prosperity that we've come to expect and enjoy. So I hope that was interesting. I hope you learned something. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, rate, and share all the good stuff. It definitely helps my channel, and I'll see you guys next time.